Jawhar and the British, works of Germany. I'm just mentioning this. Now, how are treasures acquired? Point one. Theft. This is a very interesting book. Try to read it up if you can. Jacqueline Diala. Magpie, Squirrels and Thieves. Magpie is a bird that invariably steals anything within the sight. Squirrels have this awful habit of picking up small artifacts and taking it to their homes. And thieves are thieves. How Victorians collected the world. It's a strong indictment, but let me be frank, even if you go to it, no. Theft is only one of the methods. Theft is a rather harsh indictment. It's built by passion and a sense of history. That's all. Right now, as I'm talking to you, there are scholars from certain European and American countries who are moving around the old shops, musical instrument shops, and picking up the last recipes. They're open for you. You could have picked it up. Tagore's Gitanjali's manuscript was open for about 60 years. Harvard picked it up. You didn't pick it up. Why is it that, so instead of getting how much to be shown? Next question. These are one of the more advantages I have of being in that museum items in thousands. So Indian Museum has 1,08,000. We show 6%. National has 2,08,200. They show 21%. Samarjit has 46,000 items. They show 30%. VMH Victoria Memorial Hall has 28,000. They show 10%. Allahabad Museum has 72,000. They show 25%. Prince of Wales, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, 60,000. They show 15%. I guess this will tell you the story. Now this is not a story which is particular to India. It's there in many parts of the world, except that 6% is an awful figure. It's a terrible figure. It has to be more. And then do we circulate the exhibits? The answer is almost no. So we get stagnated at that figure, and the treasures of the nation are withheld from it because of the system. Now what is the system all about? But why is it so? Cultural issue, rule bound, financial constraints, space constraints, expertise, inventory, leadership, movement. I've gone over every possible question that was thrown at me, and I left the task incomplete, unsuccessful, hoping that there are others who can take over. Cultural issues. This is one issue we never pondered. Never. Indian culture is against preservation. Everything has a life. After that, it is consigned to the flames or immersed. Think about it. It is thrown away. The moment a person dies, his personal artifacts are given off elsewhere. We don't keep impure things in the house. Islamic rule, we don't keep impure things. That is the genetic mindset. That we have that mentality running behind us. So we are not prolific collectors. Islamic rule brought in the dosha khana, but that was more of palace collections than of museums. British imported the idea of museums. 1784 Asiatic Society, 1814 the Indian Museum, William Jones. So my first submission is that there is a cultural mindset that is working against preservation. But then 200 years of British rule should have rectified, or should have, let us say, offset some of the cultural rule bound. Most large museums are central and state government, terribly bound by rules. I can't help it. The best of curators, best of directors, I placed Jawhar, one of them, not because he's sitting in front of me, but they would always suffer this terror of CBI, CBC, CAG. Once you are stung, you are finished. Therefore, there are people like him, before him, who would not do a single thing, because if you don't do anything, you don't do anything wrong. Then it becomes a ministry's big cuts. Every undersecretary thinks he knows the subject. Procedures and precedents matter most. Performance provokes jealousy. Anybody who has performed knows that he provokes jealousy. Expansion projects take up to 20 years, maybe 30. The National Museum's expansion project is now 21 years old. Victoria Memorial's NXC is around, I joined the Victoria Memorial Board in 2002. We started then, or before that. So it's about 13 years old now. Even bulbs and galleries. Now these guys have got special lighting. Before this, if you wanted to change the bulbs and galleries, they give you halogen. Halogen will eat up all the paintings. I mean, it's bizarre, mind you. Yet, because of the government control, the first line, financial concerns. Yes, both and yes and no. Normally, the finance is very restricted. But then, Mr. Gopal Gandhi's period, we could talk to the Prime Minister and get about 25-30 crores each. They were returned because the recipient directors, I'll put it bluntly, didn't want any problem. Consumption capacity is also limited. And the capacity to consume 30 persons who will give 5, 10 crores per year. If you give them 30 crores, they don't know how to handle it. Secretariat rules are there ruling the Indian Museum. It's as if it's a 10 to 5 secretariat that actually works on 11 to 4 more. This is a 24 into 7 institution. But unless somebody goes and checks the air conditioning at night, you don't know where you're landing. Okay, now headwise allocation may not be there. You might have a lot of money, but it's not specific headwise. In other words, you can't have it under building head, you could have it under collection head. So these sort of things, tender processes for packaging and transport. It's a simple line. I've seen people lose their job. Because someone selected the best packager without going through the process. His enemies who had made cuts from the substandard packages made a complaint. Under the government rules, the man who took the initiative was at fault, he lost his job. Vigilance cases in Indian Museum, National Museum, etc. There will be none in Victoria because there is nothing done here for 15 years ago. Often, space constraints often present, quite genuine. Extension of heritage properties is sacrilege. We wanted our underground circulation space here without touching the top heritage. It was an excellent architectural plan. It's still there. You can find it out. VMH, Victoria Memorial Halls, NXC goes for a 6. NM's phase 3, 20 years delay. Indian Museum's renovation, 6 years and still on. It will go on to 220th year. CPWD, ASI, etc. The problem is that we are bound by the CPWD ASI. For 30 years I've been hearing that Victoria Memorial leaks and its leakage is supposed to be controlled by ASI. ASI DG comes and said, Victoria Memorial people don't cooperate. It goes on. Expertise. Specific expertise is a problem. Many gardeners, how many gardeners do you have? 100, 200? 200. Curators? No. Now, every redisplay or exhibition is considered to be troublesome. Everyone. International practices are known to just a few. I think about 10 of your guys know international practices. Expert trainings have started with the British Museum, which Samarjit mentioned. So, we will soon have a pool of people who will be pushing them forward. The idea is to create a demand pool. Joint exercises are good for updating. We used to insist on joint exercises with the British, with the Germans, with the French and others, so that when they come and hold their exhibition and they do their framing, you pick the last best techniques at that point of time. And of course we have problems, cultural problems. Guest curators are viewed suspiciously. Reforms will take time to fructify, but the only good thing is it's on. Inventory digitization, the third problem, has started in VMH and all museums. Registers are normally handwritten and not updated. This is when I joined in 2008. Digitization is finally on, thank God. Each museum will take take its own time. You will take, I think, 2 years. 2 years. The National Museum may take another 3 years. But then to get it to the public domain, that means tag them along with photographs and put them out for display, may take another 3 years. But it's on. Registers and physical verification. You know, the National Museum is such an obnoxious place at times. When somebody made up a charge, retired in a particular gallery, I asked them how long would it take to take over charge. They said 7 years. I said, what happens if the person dies? They won't die. So, no, in other world museums, the collection belongs to the registrar. And you simply take over because you have electronic radio frequency RFS systems. Open access digital database with metadata. This is what we want. Solution in 2 to 3 years, most probably. E-registers, RFS, to track movements. It's like libraries we have. When you move a book from a place to place, you don't need to sign a register. It's picked up on the sensor. Now, thank God we could all get them on Jatan. I think all of you are working on that one software. That took 2 years of discussion. But you see, this extra caution hasn't stopped theft, only hinders genuine display. Leadership, acute problem all over. Professional museologists are very few professional museologists. Museology was valued low. What happened is when culture and education got separated, education went up like a rocket, and professors' salaries and scales and other emoluments started jumping up, which is a very good thing to have happened in the society. But where supporting services like library, archivists, conservators, museums are concerned, they started taking a hit. I said, but what about advanced studies like JNU's A&A? A&A means art and aesthetics. I had this. That's meant for Christmas and sorties. Who would have come to museums from here? One guy will come back and do a body in Indian art and then go back. It's not meant for it. Bureaucrats fill in the gap. Often reluctantly and mostly part-time. Along with 3 other duties, if he's made a museum director, he just signs the vouchers. So, rare exceptions can do wonders. I know of at least one bureaucrat who's done wonders. Venu in National Museum in 1 year has changed the face of it. He's one of the most attacked bureaucrats in Delhi. Academicians fill in the gap, but they will still need specialization. I know of academicians who work for 18 years without learning specialization. Exposure and most aptitude. Visionaries. Now, this is one. Let's look at the other museums to start with. Hans Goen, 1753 when the British Museum starts. Franks of the British Museum. Joseph Henry, Smithsonian. Wallich, the guy who built the Indian Museum. 1814. Grace Walling, she was invited by Pandit Nehru to take over the National Museum. When I wanted a foreigner to take over the National Museum, I had parliament questions. L.P. Sihari, he was brought in from New York in the National Museum. Rakhaldas Banerjee, very few people know, R.T. Banerjee was actually a curator in Chhatrapati Shivaji, Prince of Wales Museum. Sihari got into trouble. He challenged the system. Stimulus and rewards. Recognition does wonders. Recognition for good things, this is for you. Especially because it's very easy to criticize the state of affairs because the boat can only be at the level of the water. A boat can't be a rocket, it can't be a hovercraft. It can be only at the level of the water around. So recognition does wonders. Public criticism demoralizes. I have found the best of people saying that go to hell. If that's so much, it's very easy. So the power of the pen may kindly be noted. Friends of the museum. We need real well-wishers. We don't need money workers. I'm putting in money. We don't need money workers. We need money talkers. We need real well-wishers who are involved in the museum. Not talkers. I must actually start censoring my own words. Museums exhibit tangible heritage, but what is required Stephane said, what others said, what Samarjit said, intangibles, performances, festivals, involvement, reach out. So I remember you had organized this Calcutta School of Music here. So under the dome is a wide space that can and should be used. I mean, Victoria Memorial has been doing a lot, Prince of Wales has been doing a lot, National Museum yet nil, Indian Museum some. Junior officials need recognition too. That way you can convert blocking babus to heroes. I know quite a few examples. That's another psychological treatment. Narratives and stories. History at the end of the day is just a bouquet of stories. Henry Ford had called it, history is a pack of lies that we have all agreed upon. You don't need to be so harsh about history, but history is basically the story. Story matters more than history. Let's not forget this part of how to hold public interest. Every item carries a tale. Now I have shown you some broken shards. The moment you enter a museum, you see this broken pottery, which reminds you of broken teacups or triangles. What does it mean? Broken pottery matters means that the makers of this pottery at a time when human mortality was going at negative rates. Why? Because they had taken to meat first and all types of vegetables, and fire could only treat the outer surface. The inner bacteria, E. coli, Salmonella, E. coli, was not known. So anybody who partook of these things, this is before agriculture would come in, the chances of survival were 50-50. People lived up to 16, 17 years, somehow produced one and died. The moment you had pottery and started boiling water, the mortality, the rates of survival went up. So the people who boiled water, people whose pottery were found in different places, are our ancestors. Remember, for you to survive here today, you must have a continuous living ancestor. Those who died without issue are finished. They were killed by our ancestors or survivors. They killed bacteria by boiling food. Very simple technology. We are alive today because they survived. This little pottery has this tale. That's all. How many people want to mention this tale? Children, when they come and look at this little broken pottery, they go past it. Look for colored pictures. We need to have a little color display. We mention the story of people coming, boiling, dying before and after. It can be an animated one also. I'm taking exhibitions abroad, connecting, very troublesome and cumbersome. Private museums manage, but government museums want that. I've taken only one example to show you. Insurance policy and high charges. This kills us. I'll tell you what. Overvaluation is safer. What you do, because you're going for insurance, if something happens,